Thank you for tuning in to the Failed Podcast. I am your host, Sam Esquivel. Thank y'all. I hope that y'all been enjoying our previous episodes. I've been trying to bring in some interesting guests, give us some new insights into life and challenges and failures. I believe that we can learn from each other, but the key is can we share what we go through? Because if you keep it to yourself, you can't help somebody else. And so here at the Failed Podcast, that's what we're trying to do. I got three fellas in here from the Thanks for the Invite podcast. I'm going to introduce them one by one in a minute. But they are Fort Worth based. These guys, I met them. They've been cool to me. And so they accepted the invite and they're sitting here with me today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see them. If not, you're going to be able to enjoy our voices today. And we hope that, I hope that I can drive this interview, because it's three of y'all. Yeah. I've done two people, and but mainly I do one at a time, so it's a bit of a challenge. We'll see who's long-winded, we'll see who's short-winded, but we'll make it happen. You guys are pros, and so we'll start with Jesus. Introduce yourself, tell us something interesting about yourself, and then we'll jump to Joe and then Lyrical.
Oh man, all right. Well, I'm gonna start it really bad. I'm gonna set the tone.
You don't have anything interesting about
I don't have that much interest. I feel like I'm on show and tell right now, and you're like telling me to stand up in front of class. Yeah. I'm the new kid in class, and you're like, tell everybody about who
Give
you
a presentation that you didn't prepare for.
Yeah.
He's a podcaster. He doesn't have that excuse.
I know, right? No. My name's Jesus. I'm a filmmaker here in Fort Worth, Texas, and a podcaster as well. That's pretty much. I got a movie out called 6. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi. It's on Plex.
What? It's is it the number 6? The word 6?
Yeah, it's the number Roman 6, but Roman numeral.
Yeah,
so VI.
All right. Send me the link. I'm gonna put the stuff that y'all mentioned that corresponds with your projects on the descriptions below. And we're going to talk a little bit about film and getting it and what that consists of, because there's going to be a lot of people listening who want to be filmmakers. So you might just be the perfect encouraging word for someone to take that step and buy their first camera or something. So, so thank you, and thank you for being here with us.
Of course,
no pressure, man,
for sure.
Joe, my man, I think I've talked to you the most, even though I've talked to y'all. I feel like I've talked to y'all a lot, but it's been one way, because I watched a lot of your episodes and I've been studying each and every one of y'all, your mannerisms, the way that you communicate. And so, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm glad you said you watched us, just so you know what you're getting into. Because sometimes, sometimes we can be very just wild and just say crazy stuff.
But someone else is driving today. That's the difference. Yeah. So I'm going to see how that works.
So sometimes you got some bad passengers.
Yeah. We will pull the bus over. Okay, we will pull this thing over. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh man, well, I don't have any movies out. So you should have saved him for last. So he could have topped it off with the movies.
He's got the better resume.
Yeah.
You got any hidden talents? Anything that you
just podcast now.
Just podcast communicating.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite podcast. Yeah. Just thanks for the invite podcast. That's what I got going right now with these two guys. So,
you're into fashion. I seen you post some things. You look sharp, so
appreciate it, man.
you could use that as a talent. Not all of us look sharp, and so give you some props there, some flowers. You know what I mean? And so, Joe, thank you for being here with us, and we'll get into who Joe is here in a little bit. Lyrical, what's going on, my man? Thank you for being here with us. It's easier for you, man. Tell me a little bit about who you are and why Lyrical.
Lyrical was just kind of a name that stuck with them because of the rapping days. I still kind of mess with it here and there, but not nearly as much as I used to. But
you miss it?
I don't really have to, because I still write, I don't know. I got to get motivated to record, but it's something that I can't give up.
So the three of y'all are doing a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Thanks for the Invite podcast. And I listen to y'all, and y'all talk about movies, and y'all give a lot of insight, and it's funny, it's entertaining. I really enjoy it. And so, if my audience is listening right now, click on the link below, listen to their podcast. It's on all the platforms, video or audio, however you need to take it, that's how it's there. And y'all just look like y'all have fun. Like there's some kind of chemistry there. And for a lot of shows or groups, it's either made once it gets started or it's developed beforehand. So tell me a little bit about, and then y'all know how y'all flow. So y'all just do how y'all do it. Tell me a little bit about your friendship that led up to this, or the friendships that got established since y'all started your podcast.
I think well, it started with me and Joe for sure. I mean, the friendship developed from me and Joe, and then with Lyrical. Not even that much longer. Maybe 6 years later, we met Lyrical. 5 years later.
Yeah, that was back in the MySpace days.
Yeah.
They sent me a message to get on one of their songs.
I DM'd him.
So me and him talked first, and then we met up at the mall, remember? And you gave me like a CD.
Was it the CD, like a music?
I think it was a beat.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, it was the beat, yeah.
Yeah, so ever since then, we just kept in touch.
So MySpace, that's taking it way back. That's
Yeah,
not. I mean, the podcast came later on. So when did that friendship happen? How like
the podcast?
No, like that friendship with the music and the meeting each other.
Man,
Well,
that was.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah, me and Joe we always messed around with just talking about being rappers or rapping and making music because we were I guess that was the one thing that kind of really put us together was music and cars and then movies. Like we were able to kind of come off each other's stuff. Like I knew this guy was like all into music, so I was like, I'm gonna try to make sure I know this and this, and he knew I was about movies. So like again, he'd do the same thing of like, oh yeah, let's go check these movies out or whatever. And we kind of developed that friendship of like we liked each other's company. So that kind of led to like, oh, why don't we rap together and make some music, and we just kind of played around with it for a while, and then we've been knowing each other since 6th grade, so we've been friends since then. Yeah, it's been a good minute. And in high school, right after high school is when we were kind of like, hey, I think we should let's make some music. Like we were making movies, so we were making movies in my backyard with my video camera already. But I was like, let's try the rap thing for a little bit, and then and that's kind of how we started. We were rapping for a few months, maybe close to a year. And then that's when I had told him about my friend Anthony. I met him at UPS, and I was like, hey, this is a guy named Anthony. He raps, and he showed me his boy. It was Lyrical. I was like, you should check him out. And that's when Joe went out, checked out Lyrical and stuff on MySpace, and he hit up Lyrical about being on a song, and then we were all able to kind of connect through that. And
never made the song.
Dude,
no.
All three of y'all are rappers in a sense. Like all of y'all, something drew y'all to writing and to like expressing yourselves.
Definitely.
Joe, what was, if you could look back, what was your writing like? What were you writing about? Because some write about like tough times, some write about like life, and then some write about like, I'm gonna get this, right?
Yeah.
Where were you at back in the day? What were you trying to say?
I was back in the day. I was just on some lyrical. That's what I love, like lyrical music. Like if it wasn't like underground lyrical stuff, I didn't want to hear it.
So what's a good someone that people would recognize that's considered a lyrical artist?
Big Pun.
Okay.
That was one of my big inspirations. It's still now. Like he's died, but he's still one of the best in my opinion, and he was one of the best. Like I would tell people to go listen to Big Pun, Beware. Yeah, that's one of his great songs. He has a song called Super Lyrical with Black Thought, and back then that's what all I was on. So if it wasn't lyrical or anything, I didn't want to hear it. I was one of those. I was real stubborn back in the day. I was like, oh, that shit's whack. I'm not listening to it.
Well, I hear y'all talk to each other on the podcast, and I kind of feel like that's kind of from the writing and talking and all that. You know what I mean? Y'all got a good flow. Lyrical, how about you? Your name is still with you, so when people hear it, they assume that you're obviously writing, but that you're rapping. How did you get into it? What are some of your future goals when it comes to your nickname? Will you get back into the game, or are you happy with podcasting?
I don't know. I'll probably still keep messing with music. I mean, I have stuff written like very recently. It's more of a kind of like a therapy thing for me now. So like I don't even really go by lyrical anymore. Like with the music, like I've gone through all kinds of phases. Lyrical was one of them because all I wanted to do was all that lyrical. And then I kind of got to the point of I don't want to be in that box because sometimes I want to say something and if it's not super rhymey, then I feel like somebody going by lyrical is going to be like, well, he's not even lyrical.
He's
so
half lyrical.
Yeah, so now cool. I don't even go by that name anymore.
But that's what drew me to him, though, because he was lyrical. I heard his music, and I'm like, man, this guy's pretty good.
So if someone asked y'all, any of y'all right now, to hit something on the spot, man, just drop a few bars, could y'all do it? You're like, I'm done.
I mean, I'm done. No,
I'd overthink it because I'd want to rap something that, like, really good in my mind, but I don't know.
Man, I feel like you look bad.
Well, I didn't come here as a rapper. I came here as a filmmaker.
No. Well, it's a talent that y'all have. So you're a filmmaker, but y'all doing podcasting. tell me how y'all came to that, right? In the very beginning, I know it was just you and Joe, and then Lyrical came later on. Mm-hmm. But it was, I wrote it down, it was in 2020. It was your first episode. What led you up to it, and what do you remember some of the challenges that y'all had in the very beginning?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe was the one who put me on. Well, my older brother put me on, you know, opening up to Joe Rogan on here podcast. But Joe was the one who really put me on like the podcast world and was like, listen to this, listen to that, like, you know, just check them out, like, and because of the comedians that we listened to growing up, like Bobby Lee, Andrew Santino, Tom Segura, like we were just like, oh, check them out, like you're gonna like them. That opened the door for a lot more podcasting stuff, and I just kind of was like, I think this. I didn't see it as like a content thing. I didn't see it as like, oh, we can make some dope ass content. I saw it more of like a, hey, I think this would be dope that we have to force each other to almost hang out every week, once a week, even if it's for that 1 hour, like, you know, because there was a good time where we weren't really hanging out as much, maybe for like, you know, it was every now and then or whatever. But I thought like hearing all these podcasters come together and like having them have like their, you know, I was like, the connections that they talked, like how they talked, was just making me feel like they were together every day, all day. Yeah. And they were just like, oh, we just meet up this one day out of the week. And I'm just like, damn, like, okay, cool. I'm like, I think that'd be a dope thing to do it and just conversate. And I think we have good stories. And we were just kind of going with the flow. We didn't really, I brought it up to him. I was like, what do you think about doing it? He was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. Because we were in our shells. Like, we didn't really like putting ourselves out there and like being on camera. That's why
you seem like the most outgoing. And then from there, it's like Joe and then Lyrical. So the fact that you tell me that that Joe was the one that kind of prompted this, that's shocking to me.
I didn't prompt it. Never wanted to do a podcast. Like I said, I put him on the. I don't know if I guess I told you about podcasts. Yeah. But I never thought, even in my head, as I listen to them every day, I never thought of doing my own. Yeah. Because I was just like you said, I'm shy, like you know, me and this guy, like, we're introvert by nature. Yeah. So we're even doing a podcast to this day is still a challenge to me, because there's times where I just can't come out, like out my shell, you know, like I'm still in it. I'm in too much in my head all the time, like I can't even talk.
Tell me this. Okay, you said you're an introvert along with Lyrical. Tell me some of the challenges before podcasting that you had being an introvert, and then how have you faced them and become better while you're podcasting?
Oh man, well, the podcast, like, being on a podcast, it makes you like, you have to talk. You know, like
conversation has definitely improved. Like I was never able to just talk to somebody, and
explains why you were writing.
I can't like just have like small talk conversations with people. Like if I'm in the room with somebody, I find a way out of that room before I say anything because it's just awkward. I don't do good in those situations.
And while doing the podcast, you know, it was me and him at first, and we had his brother and his sister behind the scenes working everything. So that helped me, because I was like, okay, so it was just me and Jesus the whole time, I would be fucking horrible. You know what I mean? And I knew, like, when we first started, I was like, man, I'm not doing too well just because the way I am.
Got it.
So I know Lyrical, he didn't say he wanted to be on the podcast, but he was always writing me and like, oh, yeah, I talked about this week. So I knew he wanted it on it. Yeah. So I hollered at Jesus and I was like, hey, you want to bring Lyrical in? And he was like, yeah, we can bring him in, you know, see what it's like. So he came in for a little bit. And we kept him in the background for a little bit and, you know, working off him. And I think he's like the missing piece. I know for me to be well on this podcast, I need a third chair. I don't know what Jesus thought, but for me personally, I said there needs to be a third chair in here. Because I couldn't do it. I mean, we probably could, but we would have to do a lot of planning. Like a lot of times us three, we don't even plan. We just pull up and just talk.
Lyrical comes in with the zingers. That's what I see. Like, y'all saying something, y'all flowing, and he's like, man, y'all dumb. And then you're like, oh, man, why you got to throw the wrench in it? But it's good. I think that's what he brings. So let me ask you, okay, as far as introvertness, I want to focus on that with you, Joe, right now. So now you're well in. You got a lot of episodes under your belt, many hours of communicating. What's something that you still challenge yourself with, or you say, man, I haven't improved on this, and what have you done to improve?
Talk about things that I'm not, because I love music. So if you want to talk about music, I talk about music all day. But there's times where Jesus wants to talk about Marvel and DC. That's things that I'm not really into. But being a part of the podcast, I have to try to get better at talking about that, though. Like, I can't be a selfish person and be like, well, I don't want to talk about that. You know, I have to try to break out and still have a conversation about that with him, an interesting one with them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm still trying to work on. Like, there's times where I'm like, I don't really want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, if you're in a group, you have to take everyone's feelings into consideration, and you have to at least try to talk about it and not just close yourself off.
Have you ever heard of the term loud introvert?
Loud introvert.
Okay, it's this guy. He's real famous. He coined it, but because he's an introvert, but he's on a podcast, super successful, communicates and teaches very well. But he developed being loud in his introvertness. You know what I mean? And so as I'm watching you two guys, that's what I feel, because I'm an introvert, believe it or not, and that's why I excel here. Because I can focus and there's nothing else around me, you know what I mean? And so that's why I'm kind of zooming in on it with y'all too. Yeah. And so Lyrical, let me talk to you about introvertness. And I feel like, first of all, it's a challenge for a lot of people. And if they don't find a podcast or some creative way to kind of learn and express themselves, guess what? What happened? They fail at a lot of things. As an introvert, they won't make the conversation, they won't shake the hand, they won't do certain things, and it limits people. And so I think that y'all are good examples of how to step out of it. So Lyrical, as you're stepping out of your introvertness, because I wouldn't, to do a podcast, dude, you're asking for people to come up to you as you grow. You know what I mean? And that's kind of a scary thing for an introvert. How are you going to handle those challenges when they happen? How have you seen yourself grow and be more extrovert or more of a loud introvert?
I don't know. I think those situations, I would just hope that they're with me. Like, I feel comfortable, like more comfortable. Like, if I was here by myself, it would probably be different. Like, I'm not good at talking to people. I'm probably worse than he is. And I've just always been very antisocial. And I think music was always just a way to say how I felt without having to actually talk to people. So it was kind of just my way of quietly putting myself out there and then just kind of letting it do its thing. Like, I never promoted it. I never went up to anybody and said, hey, check this out. And that's kind of how I am with this. Like, it's kind of like, okay, like, we can have our conversations and then put it out there, post it. But I don't know. I still can't approach people and talk to people. So I'm still pretty antisocial. But I don't know. I feel like I'm getting better at speaking, I guess, than I used to be.
Yeah, you are.
And so, Jesus, would you consider yourself an introvert, an extrovert? How do you define yourself?
Gay.
Thank you. I am. No. I think I'm married. I'm not gay, guys. I think I'm more of an introvert, but I can be, like, if I put myself out there in a position, because I don't like going out. I don't like going to places that I don't feel comfortable.
Your homebody?
Yeah. I just like staying home. Unless, even like if it's the most exciting place for me to go, that I'm just like, this is where I want to go. There's a part of me that goes like, do I really want to go? You know? But once I make myself out there and I put myself out there, like if I do go, then I made the choice to be like, well, okay, now I really got to talk to people. Now I really got to put myself out there and let them know about the podcast. So then it looks like I'm more of like an extrovert in front of people, like out when we're out. But it's because I'm purposely going like, well, if I'm not gonna do this, if we're not gonna do this, like, you know, when we're sitting in our rooms and stuff, then when we're out here, we need to be talking to people. So I put myself out there, but I still consider myself an introvert because, I mean, I don't really like going out to anywhere. Like, you know, I'll hang out with everybody, you know, with these guys, but like, it's just hard, like, you know, if Joe's like, let's go out, and I'm like, who's all gonna be there? You know, like, is Lyrical? Do I know the people? And then like, I'm more of an age where I'm comfortable, like, you know, just being like, okay, cool. Like, I don't need to ask who's gonna be there. Like, do I want to go or do I not want to go? But you know, I think it just depends on the situation.
Now, communicating for a lot of people, it's a difficult thing, and so many people want to do podcasting. Okay, and a lot of people are going to fail or they're not going to do it. But when you decide to podcast, you have to kind of analyze your communication skills. You have to have them or figure out a way to develop them. I'm hearing each of you talk, and your communication skills, they're good, they're solid, right? You're running a podcast. Tell me, what are some of the challenges that y'all have individually or as a team communicating, and how y'all developed it, okay? But think about a young kid who's trying to develop his communication skills, probably to do better in school or so forth. So give us some of your nuggets as far as developing or just developing each other as better communicators. Whoever.
Yeah, I'm probably
the
the
worst
worst
commuting
one.
as podcast.
yeah, just choosing your words, being able to finish a sentence, things that are difficult for so many people. but people listen to us and they think it's easy.
Well, I know for me, like, when the cameras are off, we can all three of us, when the camera's off, I feel like we have a better conversation than when the camera's on. So the camera adds a lot of pressure to things. Like, you don't even know. Like, but once you know that camera's on in the back of your head, you're like, oh. So I think, like, if you are, like, there are kids out there that do want to do a podcast, just start talking before the camera's even on. Just get the vibes going. And, just get comfortable. Just start conversating, getting the conversation going, get into flowing, and then have somebody turn the camera on. Don't even know that the camera's going.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I noticed that when we did our podcast, when that camera comes on, like, you just tense up.
Yeah.
You can't tense up.
Yeah.
But
you're already picturing somebody watching YouTube and watching you say what you're saying right now. So then you're just in your head, 5 sentences ahead, trying to figure out, okay, where am I going with this? And so
y'all feel pretty comfortable on the other side of the camera.
Now, over 100 episodes later.
I think with each other, I feel like if I were to go to somebody else's, then I probably wouldn't be able to be the same as I am with them.
Got it.
And I just
so you function with as a group.
Yes.
Yeah. Have y'all done any solo things, or y'all like when y'all do stuff, y'all together?
As far as podcasting?
Yeah, podcasting or like an interview.
He has.
I've done.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've done the Rambling Mob. Shout out to Brian. That's his. He runs a boxing page, All Rounds Boxing. I've done his once, and then I did the Funky Panthers once. Shout out to Javier.
Okay, so let me ask y'all this. What are some key things as a podcaster that y'all need to, like someone should have? Like if they're stepping into it, what are some roadblocks that y'all hit, some challenges that you maybe can help someone else avoid?
Communication.
Yeah, communication is
If you do
key.
it with people, you need to have good communication.
Yeah.
And
have an
difficult.
idea also. Like, don't just go in there and not know what the hell you're doing or, like, no more. Like, we kind of found our little pocket and we know, like, where the conversation's most likely going to end up, even though it's super random. But we know that none of us are going to come in there talking about politics. Or current events or anything like that. Like, people just need to like kind of know what you're gonna go for and like perfect that. And just keep going.
Okay, so in this day and age, there's a thing that I see, and that is that there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of negativity out there when people are trying to do projects or whatever, and that's what kind of holds people down, or they're scared to do something because just when people hate, it's heavy, man.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask each one of y'all do the other two a favor. We'll start with Jesus. Have you heard the term give flowers? Do you know where that comes from? So in other words, don't wait till someone dies to give them flowers. You know what I mean? And so I want the audience to hear something positive from your co-host that you have seen, whether they developed during the podcast or that you just know, hey man, Joe's solid. He's really good at this. Hit them with some flowers, and then there you go. Okay. And then I'm gonna pass it to y'all, and then we'll do the same.
I got it.
Okay. All right. So you want me to lie? Okay. So no, just kidding.
I'm gonna wing it. Think about it.
No, I mean, I think communication has gotten a lot better. I think like them being comfortable has gotten like so much better because I know when we were creating the podcast, like I know we got to put a show on at times. I know it has to be a show. Like we can't just go in there and just sit down and expect people to like just listen. Like we got to kind of we have to be ourselves, but just tweak it up a little bit more so that people have that like, oh, okay, like these guys are, we're putting a show. So I think they've done so much better now of like not necessarily just putting a show, but like doing so much better conversating and communicating and just knowing how to steer the conversations, like knowing exactly like, I mean, everything, our jokes are, we know exactly where we're going to go. Like, I just think our dynamics, like everything has just gotten so much. That's what we've improved on, that they've improved on. So definitely want to give you guys your flowers on that. Like just in general, from like day one, where we've had to restart episode 1 like 6 times, and then we were finally like okay. And so where we're at today, like it's a really crazy improve. I mean, I get told a lot like, damn, like I've never seen Joe come out like this. Like just out the clouds. I mean, out the the podcast like that. And so definitely. Knowing them for so long and knowing how introvert they are, and they don't talk to nobody, and they don't like to open up. Like I've seen them just stand there awkwardly. I'm like, okay, you know. And I'm just like talk, and they're just like, it's not like I don't want to. I really can't do this, you know.
Yeah, it's not meant. Can't do it.
Yeah, and so now they're just really, really good. Like I mean, obviously, everyone's getting better, but like it's just a whole 180. You know that they've done now.
Not a 360.
Not a 360 or 180.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe.
We're giving flowers, right?
To your co-host.
Okay, well I'll give flowers to Jesus first, since he's our fearless leader. So not too long ago we did our Road to 100. We did 3 podcasts.
Yeah.
And our 100th episode didn't get to come out because for whatever reason I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
But on the 100th episode I was giving Jesus flowers, and I was like, a lot of this podcast weighs on his shoulders. Like he does a lot, and you know. I don't think I've ever told him this. Like, a lot of it does, though. I think he knows that. But I told him, like, he's like the Dr. Dre of the Thanks for the Invite. Like,
got it.
You know, why we look so good? And it's because of him. He does motherfucker's been editing for every week for about how long? Like a year and a half?
Yeah, almost 2 years. No, 2 years now.
Yeah, like 4-hour, 5-hour editing a day. And I'm just like, damn, like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, so he's putting that dedication. So a lot of it lays on his shoulders. So I appreciate you. You do a great job. And I hope we can continue this. So yeah, that's what he does. He's like,
Cool,
he makes us look good, and yeah, so I like that. And then Lyrical, well, I love Lyrical. You know, ever since we started doing music, I knew like ever since we started doing music, we just had this connection of doing music. Like I remember, like I don't want to go into a big story or nothing, but yeah, like just ever since music, like I could tell, like I said, we're both introverts, like. We have a lot in common, like, in some things, so that's why I felt like we gravitated to each other, and that's why I wanted him to come on the podcast, and I've seen him come out his show more, because there's been times where, you know, he's been on the podcast, you know, back in the day and really hasn't said much, and then now I can see him, like, this last episode, he did great, and I still notice those things, like, I still notice when he does really good on the podcast, and in my head, I'll take a mental note of that, and like, he did very good this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's came up this way, so he's done great.
I love it, man.
I like it.
Lyrical, give some flowers.
Man, it's hard to top his. That was pretty good.
Same thing, man.
But
Copy paste.
Yeah, exactly. Put my name on it.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I mean, he does run the whole show and make sure everything's going good. We pretty much just, I don't know, sometimes we just show up and like sit down and he's like running around and doing everything, and we're just like talking to each other or listening to music. But
we're like talking about him while he's setting up.
He's all sweating and
cracking jokes about him. And
it's true. It's true.
yeah. Even like whenever we're interviewing somebody, like he's been like pretty good at whenever we're kind of
taking
not really.
He knows how to keep a conversation going.
He's better
while
at
me and
like,
him might struggle.
making sure while we're sitting there thinking about what we're gonna say and how we're gonna say it. Like he just keeps going.
I love it, man.
I don't know how to do it either. I'll be honest. I randomly would.
It's just in you.
Yeah, he surprises himself.
Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that.
That was great, guys, and I don't know. I just felt like we needed to do that so people can see what that sounds like and what that looks like, especially like in this like macho culture. Sometimes guys don't do that. They don't say, "Hey, dude, you're doing a good job. I've seen you grow," and I think that's important, you know. And so let me jump into this. In life, okay, you can do podcasts, you can do in your directing and making films. What's a challenge that one of y'all have faced that has defined you now? Where you're like, man, I learned so much because boom, I hit my head with a hammer, whatever. What failure or challenge have you faced that defined you who you are today?
I guess I'll start. I remember I was getting when I went to film school, I had to drop out of film school within like 8 months into film school. Financial aid couldn't cover me no more. They were just like, nah, like you got married, so because you got married, y'all both paid too much income. We're not covering you. You gotta pay so and so this. It was too much, and I was just like, had to drop out. I was kind of like, damn, like this sucks. Like I'm dropping out, and like what, you know, like this sucks. Like, and so anyways, one of my professors was like, hey, like you don't need film school, bro. Like straight up was just like, just go out there, make movies. Like you've already made short films, or you were ahead than everybody else. Like just go out there, make movies. Like at the end of the fourth semester, you were just gonna be the one directing the movie anyway. So like just go out there. The whole point of filmmaking is to make movies. So I was like, okay, cool. So I was writing on this like cool, like I'm gonna do this. So I kind of wrote on this high of like I feel like I'm the best, like I'm better than everybody. And so I came out, made a short comedy film named tack, and I thought, okay, this wasn't too bad. Like, this was pretty good. I got some pretty good feedback. It went through like TCC Film Festival, and then that opened the door, and they were like, oh, we want you to go to the Fort Worth Film Festival. And I was like, yo, this is awesome. And I had another film I was making called Alejandro, which was way better as well. Like, it was a movie that everybody was like, yo, this is pretty fucking dope. And so that got me in the Fort Worth Film Festival. It opened more doors. So then I got on my like real big high and was just like, oh, I'm gonna make the best movie ever. And I made this like movie that no one has ever seen, and it took, I think it was like
6.
No, shut up. I'm sorry. It was like it was a good amount of process to get this film, and then to make this film, and the cast and crew, and there was a lot of controversy on like the whole movie. And I think at the time it was a whole like cop, and the whole cops and pulling over and stuff like that. It was around that time, and so I thought I was like making one of the best movies ever. I thought I was like, oh, this is gonna change everything. But then after finishing it was so many mess ups in while we were filming, so many things going wrong. I mean, casting, everything, just to the point where in my head it was almost like signs of like, you don't need to, like, this isn't a movie you need to make. This isn't your movie. Like, why are you're doing this because you think you need to make this, and you need to make a point, and you need to show, like, this is what's going on. You feel, like, I don't even have a voice in this stuff, right? Yeah. So I had a few people tell me like, this movie's not that good. Like, I was showing rough cuts, and they were just like, it's not good. People were just like, I would, like, not even that it was controversial, like, whatever. Like, there was nothing, like, I'll show it, no, there's nothing controversial about it. It was just, it wasn't good. The acting was bad. Everything about it was bad. Like, I was so focused on the visuals and like being like, oh, I'm better, whatever, that like I got carried away with like making this production look good of like what I know I can do, and left from the story and who I am as an artist. And I was just like I almost lost friendships and stopped talking to people because they were telling me the movie was bad, and I was getting in my feelings about it. Like, I was like, no, F you, you don't know none of this, you don't know blah blah blah. And it got to a point where I stopped, really looked at the movie, and then I looked back at myself and I was like, that's a crappy movie. I was like, holy snap. And and I stopped myself, and I remember maybe a few weeks after I just stopped making. I just stopped in filmmaking for a few weeks, and I remember looking at my brother and was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep making films. And he's like, why not? And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, I just don't think I got it in. Like, I think I was just a bust.
It's a rocky moment.
Yeah, and I remember just one day going like, you know what? A few weeks later, I was like, I want to just make a movie I want to make. And so I wrote a short film that I've had written like consistently for a few times. Called my brother, come up with Jerry, and was like, let's make a movie. I don't need nobody else. Let's just make it. Like, we'll do everything that same day. We'll come up. And then I made my short film 6, which was my short film. It was a 13-minute movie. And then that was the door that opened my filmmaking door to like make my feature film 6. And so I was about to give up from that because of all those things, and it was just me going like, no, what if I just go and be me and forget about everybody else, forget about what everybody thinks, forget about who I think I need to be or whatever, and let's just make a movie that I want and that I enjoy and that I like.
Now, a lot of people suffer from thinking they're the best, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like you were like kind of heavy on the pride at that time because of the previous 2. And that's a challenge that we face. Our pride kind of gets ahead of us because we think we're the best. So now whenever you not only take on new projects, but you see other people think, man, I'm the best and I'm going to jump into, how do you communicate what everyone wanted to communicate with you back then? And you weren't listening to no one.
Yeah.
How would you communicate that to someone today and say, dude, like, you need to get off your high horse? Or how would you approach it?
I think I've learned my lesson. I've talked to a few artists that I've talked with who have approached the whole like I'm better and stuff, and I've been that person who's been like, oh no, I've gone through it. You don't need to think like this, and it's just backfired on me where they don't care. They don't want to listen. Like, for them, it's like, oh, you just want to, you think I'm better than you, so you don't want me to be better than you. And it's just like, no, I'm trying not to steer you in the path that I went, because you could give up your dreams because you become something you don't want to be. So I've learned that everybody has to go through their own things, and like they have to understand. Like, I can't sit here and tell Joe like, oh, like, your girlfriend, like, she's doing all these things, she's gonna cheat on you, blah blah blah. Like, he has to go. He's gonna be like, I don't believe you. This is, at the end of the day, I'm like, he has to go through it. He has to feel it.
That's just an example, right?
Yeah, that's just an example. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Judge.
I'm single.
Yeah. Now people have to feel it.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. Like, you're never gonna get the message unless you actually feel it yourself. Like, unfortunately, that's for a lot of things. And I think someone who feels failure and can surpass that, they're the ones.
Do you have people around you that give you criticism that you accept right now, like people that maybe have more experience? Do you look for people like that to help you improve?
Yes, I try, but it's very hard to find people to help critique the movie and without them bashing it, just because the movie's not for them or whatever. But no, there's a lot of people that I do like, listen to. Shout out my boy Bradley Morris, producer. He's from Waco, but he's a pretty big producer, and he helps me out a lot. I'll send him stuff, and he doesn't like this is bad, or doesn't like this isn't you. Like write something else. Like this isn't that. Like no, you can do better. You can do this or I'm like, I wrote the best thing ever, and he'll be like, no, you didn't. Rewrite this, and I'm like, okay, So I do have friends that I know have my best interest in them.
So do you want to keep improving on how you accept criticism? Do you feel like that's important, like for your podcast and your filming future?
100%.
I love it, man. It's hard to take criticism. So I'm with you on it. I'm not saying that I can do it either, but that's a good lesson for people that are listening and trying to, especially when you're in the creative field. Like, dude, it's so broad. Like, you just got to pick and choose who you're going to listen to. But the criticism is coming. You got to learn to handle it, because if not, it'll slow you down. And well, that's pretty cool, dude, that you went through that. I think there's some value in that. So let me jump to Joe.
Oh, shit.
No. Okay, Joe, how many times have you been shot? Not joking. No, tell me a challenge in your life. It doesn't matter when that you went through that you feel you're better because of it now.
Oh, I don't want to go back to the podcast, but it's podcasting.
That's
like
fine.
Just coming out of just talking more.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm better at it today than I was back then, and it's just tough. Like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, just repeating the podcast.
Well, let me hit you with this.
Yeah.
What were some of the insecurities you had when it came to communicating or hearing yourself?
Oh, I still suffer that. Like, I watch the episodes, but I still watch them, but it's still hard to hear my voice sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because I'm still like, it's cringe. It can be cringeworthy if you're not used to it.
I can't even watch the episodes.
Yeah, I agree.
No.
Yeah.
It's hard editing them sometimes and hearing myself laugh or hearing myself. Because, I know I put it in the show sometimes, but sometimes I'm just like, I need to chip down a little bit, bro. Like, I get a little too hype and stuff like that, for real. And so it is hard. Like, I agree with Joe. Like, it can be lyrical. Like, it's a little hard hearing
like
yourself
my wife will listen to it or watch it, and if she's around me, or like she'll stream it on the TV, like I'll go in the other room.
Really? That bad?
Yeah.
Let me know what you think.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. So that's the challenge you're facing now. Are you doing anything to be able to handle that, or to find the positive in listening to yourself and watching your episodes?
Am I trying to find the positives in watching myself? Well, I feel I'm trying to like communicate more with like different people to get better at conversating. Like, if I'm just out talking to friends, like I may try to start just like talking to them like as I'm interviewing them or something, just so I can try to get better at this. Like, I'm always thinking of ways in my head to get better at podcasting. I feel like I've gotten a little better. I feel like I still have a lot of improvement to do, and that's it.
What are some of the goals that you have as far as communicating? Where would you like to be? Is there a podcaster or an auditor that you listen to and you're like, you know what, I like how they deliver, I need to work on this or that?
I've tried that before, but I don't feel it worked out, because I'm like, I'm not this person. I can't try to be this person, because that's not me, because that person may not have my own, the issues that I have. I don't have that person's issues. So, but just as far as communicating, I think it just takes time. I keep trying. Like, I show up every week, and I put my best foot forward, even though if I wasn't that good that week, I still tried.
Dude, that's good.
Just keep trying. That's pretty much what I have right now. Just keep trying.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what the nugget is in that. Okay, there's a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people in my life, and when they struggle in communicating, as they get older, they communicate less. You know what I mean? This is like podcasting, all that aside, you're talking like marriage, you're talking kids, community. It just keeps getting lower and lower. And like in our culture, in the Latino culture, you see a lot of that in our older parents.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine that they used to communicate a certain way. They get older and they're just quiet. And and I don't know. To me, that's just so unhealthy. So I'm glad that that insecurity kind of exists in your life but that you're not letting it stop you.
Yeah, definitely.
And if someone's listening right now and you're insecure, like, I don't want to hear my voice, I don't have nothing to say, speak up, develop it, because it might come in handy. Hello, like, you're podcasting, and you shouldn't be, right? Because your insecurities, and you're doing it. And so those are the kind of challenges that we like to point out and kind of zoom in on. And you're an ongoing example of overcoming it. So don't give up, Joe, because I'm gonna keep listening and watching y'all. So keep going. All right, Lyrical, a challenge or a failure that you've had in your life that you think has made you better today?
I think just not taking advantage of just being in the moment and like giving it my all. Because like sometimes like I'll listen to somebody like music or something. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I could rap better than that. Like, I'm better than him. Like, you know, but then it's like, then I'll start looking and it's like, well, where the fuck is your music at? Mm-hmm. You know, like, then it's like, well, like, if they were here right now and I told them I'm better than you, and they were like, well, play me one of your songs, you know, then it's like, well, shit, I don't have the one recorded that I have up here. So it's like,
in my head,
I have a bunch of stuff written in my head. Because I don't like to physically write. I hate the way paper and pen feels. But I have a lot of stuff written in my head. So in my mind, I've written all this stuff, but I've never put it out there. So nobody even knows that any of this stuff exists. So I think like my thing would be like, just put it out there. Like keep going. And like, I just hate
overthinking.
Overthinking. Like just what he was doing. Just thinking like, you know, like in the moment, it's like, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. And then like years pass by.
I didn't do it.
And then no. So
you said something about writing, pen to paper, right? It's just not comfortable for you. Why? Why'd you say that? What's there?
I don't know. It just feels so, I don't know what it is about it. Like it just feels like a lot of work. And then like I end up rewriting stuff. So then I have to mark it out. But in my mind, like I have a layout to where like I can see all the lyrics in my head and I know exactly where the snares are. And it's like a visual thing that I see in my head when I'm writing. And then if I don't like the way something sounds, then I'll come back to it and I'll keep going. But I know I still see that blank spot. And then I can go back and fill that in and then just keep reciting it over and over in my head. Like it's just...
What's the goal with this? Like, do you think you'll overcome the being able to write, or do you think you're just gonna have to find another medium to put your creativity like out there?
I don't know. I kind of like.
Here's why I'm asking. Let me throw this out there. So, for everyone that's gonna step into greatness, right after a failure or challenge, we always have something that's out of our control that we say that's holding us back. And so I'm just wondering, is that holding you back? And if it is, what avenue are you looking for to bring that creativity out? Because it's in there, right? And I've seen you right now doing this whole, like, you know, that movie with Tom Cruise where he does all that.
Oh, the Hangover with Zach Galifianakis when he's at the table.
Like that one.
It's from Minority Report,
I'm just wondering, how close are you to breaking that barrier? You know what I mean?
Like to physically writing, or
no,
like
to making it happen.
Like
if it's not pen and paper, then what is it?
I think my problem is like it's like I know I could do it if I wanted to, you know, and it's like I don't actually just do it, like because I have the studio at the house, so it's like I have access to everything. The only thing that's stopping me is me.
You don't have a challenge.
Like there's nothing that's stopping me. I don't have to pay for studio time. Like I have the program, like I have everything, and all I have to do is walk upstairs. And then sometimes like I'll record something and it's like, man, I need to start doing this again because it feels better. And whenever I finally get to actually voice what I wanted to say and put it out there, like I still don't really promote my music too much or anything, but I'll upload it on YouTube.
Like, I said, or the podcast.
But I don't know, like I feel weird like telling people,
He's like, I show up.
Like, hey, come listen to me. You know, like,
you don't
hey,
like doing that. You don't like that part of it.
But you got to, man. That's why there's too much mediocre music out there. It's because those people know they're not making good music, but they know that they can put it out there and they're okay with not caring what people think about it. And that's why great artists aren't where they're at today, because they're too afraid of what people think. And you know that when you put a song out there, as a great artist, that song that to you might not be good is still 100% better than most that's putting on the radio and mediocre stuff.
And I like that you say that, because I feel a lot of people go through that. For me, for example, doing this podcast and, like you said, having everything available for me to do it, sometimes I get bummed out when I don't have an interview lined up. You know, whenever I get a few no's, I'm like, dude, like, it bums me out. Mm-hmm. And somehow I bring myself back, and then, you know, y'all reach out to me and we make it happen. It kind of fuels me back up. So I love that you're going through that challenge. You know what I mean? I'm curious what's on the other end of it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like you're still in it. But sometimes we're in a challenge or a failure or whatever, and we're coming out of it, and that's okay as well. Like, to be able to identify it is the first thing that we need to do whenever they pop up, and some people can't even do that. So I want to commend you for doing that. I'm going to ask a question that's going to be for each of y'all. Whenever you hear the word failure, what comes to mind? How do you respond to whether someone comes to you and says, man, I failed, or you fell and you have to talk to yourself in the mirror? How do you define failure?
I think failure is just giving up to me.
Yeah.
I think that's all it is. Like, I don't believe there's failure. I just believe it's you know, you learned a lesson, or it's like, okay, I just gotta go try it again. I think if your last thing on a project or whatever it was the word failure, like, oh well, I failed at this. No, you gave up on it. Nothing. You can't fail at anything. Like, there's nothing. In my opinion, you can't. Like, it's just you not trying. You're not wanting to go do it. Like, it's all your own fault. And no one's holding you back. It's all you. Like, so I think it's just you giving up. To me, is what I define failure as.
Yeah,
that's good. Joe?
Failure, it just depends how you look at it. Like, failure. If you do fail, well, how do you respond? You gonna go crawl in your shell, or are you going to try to fix the issues that you had?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you could fail. Do you really fail, or are you learning a lesson? Like, okay, well, I learned my lesson. Because I feel like if you're not thinking, like, if you fail at something, then you're thinking big enough. Then you're like, okay, I'm going out here to try to do this.
Yeah.
Like, putting myself out there. And if you fail, it's like, okay, well, you know, you were thinking big enough to fail at something.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not thinking that big, you'll never fail at anything. So I just feel like, just failure, just, you know, there's two sides of the spectrum of it to me. It's just like, how do you look at it? How are you going to respond to it? And, you know, are you going to overcome it, or are you going to go back in the shell and hide from the world? So just overcome it. That's the, you know, it's easier said than done, but you know what I mean. I think y'all get the picture where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Lyrical?
Draw for us, please, Joe.
Nah, pretty much the same thing. I think it's giving up, the overall giving up, because there's a difference between a failure and and it's like, if you did something and it didn't work out the way that you wanted to, then it's like, all right, you just you didn't fail at it, you know, because you did it. But if you just completely quit and like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm going to do this. Okay, well, now you did fail at that because you're not even attempting anymore.
Yeah.
So, I think there's that line between a failure and just...
Yeah, I like it. We're going to finish with talking about the Thank You for the Invite podcast. What are some of the goals, individual goals y'all have for the podcast here moving forward?
I guess, I don't know. I just want people to enjoy whenever they listen to TFTI to feel like they're sitting there with us and conversating, because like Joe said, like, you know, we can have conversations about different things, you know, movies, music, you know, ghost stories. I mean, just we kind of dig into a lot of things. Like, there's episodes that we do have that is just movies, and there's episodes that we do have that's just music, and we might have like a two-parter on this, and then there's episodes that something happened to Joe, and all of a sudden we just went off of that, and it's like we just go off of a lot of things. So I one of my biggest goals is just to be one of those podcasts people come and just sit and enjoy and have a good time, have fun. Like, they're just, I don't like the pod on ours. It's like people come, they want to promote their stuff sometimes, you know, and I'm just like, no, come have a good time, come enjoy, come let people see the other side of you. Like, and then once they like you, they're gonna go check out your stuff. Yeah. You don't need to tell them to check out your stuff once they like you. Once they go like, oh, this person is really dope, I got to know them, I got to so and so and so, they're gonna go check your stuff out. And obviously, you know, we talk about their stuff here and there, but I just think it's just being a great podcast, you know, this is not something I thought I'd be doing. I didn't honestly think this would be in my cards. Like, you would have told me you would have told me 3 years ago, like, hey, you're gonna have a podcast, I'd have been like, you're crazy. Never. I wouldn't even. That's not even
a podcast that people listen to.
Yeah,
well, you know?
exactly. Like it's crazy for us to get recognized. Like it's not a lot, but we do get recognized, and it's like, it's a cool moment, but it's also crazy to be like, what, you listen? It's that part that goes in my head. I'm like, not that you're recognized. I'm like, oh, you listen to us actually.
Like they talk about a time in the talked about this.
Yeah, it's weird to
crazy.
hear somebody tell you something about yourself, and it's like, how the hell you know that? Like,
yeah.
Weird. Like you weren't there whenever I was talking about that.
I mean, that's how I feel whenever I'm sitting with you. I wanted to bring some stuff up, you know, but it'd be kind of weird, you know. Be like, you don't know me, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. Joe, how about you?
What do I want from the podcast?
Like some of the goals that you have, personal or for the group.
Kind of. Yeah, I like what we got going right now. I feel like we don't put ourselves in the box of what we can talk about. We, like you said, we can talk about movies, music. We talk about ghost stories. Like we talk about whatever.
Yeah. And
I like that. We don't, we're not in the box of what. We're only gonna talk about this. We can talk about whatever. Maybe not on a few episodes, but just I like that we're like that, and I think that's what kind of sets us apart from a lot of people. That I feel like we're different from a lot, and I like that. And just continue to grow. I feel like we're doing great right now. I feel like we could be doing better, and we will do better. I'm excited for what we got coming this year and the next year. Like we've interviewed probably like one of our favorite rappers, and we've interviewed somebody that I never thought we would ever have the chance to.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
That's
and
good.
I'm so glad that we got to do that, and podcasting brought that to us. So, and I think from here, like it's only gonna get better for us. Like all you gotta do is ask. You get a yes or a no. Okay, no, we move on then. Keep doing your thing. And
That's good, man.
I think it's gonna be great.
Lyrical, personal goals or group goals for the podcast.
I think just like try to provide a way for people to just escape for a little bit, like to where they don't have to worry about that daily bullshit. Because like whenever I'm listening to podcasts, like I don't want to hear what the news is already telling me. I don't want to hear what everybody's posting all over Facebook. Like I just want to hear like just fun stories or whatever, like just to take you out of all that for a little while.
Oh yeah.
That's why like I like that we don't have like he said, we're just random. You never really know what's going to happen, but whenever you go meet up with your friends, y'all don't plan what y'all are going to talk about. It's like, hey, y'all want to chill, then you go chill, whatever gets talked about, you're laughing, you're just going with the like having a good time. And that's what like I just want to provide that for other people when they're listening. Like you just feel like you're hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
And that's how it was whenever I was listening before I got on it, because like it was just one of those where I can feel myself like wanting to chime in or like, oh no, it was this, or like, oh man, they didn't even say this. And then I like whenever people tell me like, oh man, y'all forgot to say this movie or y'all forgot to say this, and it's like, oh, that's cool because you were actually into it.
Yeah,
that's true. Well, that's good. Okay, so on some of the episodes I've started doing this, you don't have to have a question, but in order for people to also get to know the Failed Podcast, I want to give y'all an opportunity. If y'all have a question y'all want to ask the Failed Podcast, it's me, but whatever. Like the Failed Podcast, feel free to ask it right now so that people can get to know what we're doing here a little bit better. You can pass or you can just ask. It don't matter.
Well, what are your goals? That's what I want to know. Like I want to know your big outcome of the Failed Podcast, because I know I love the message of the Failed Podcast of like getting to know someone at a different personal level and also of their failures and how they overcame. You know, like I really like that. What are the big goals for you?
Well, one is I want to have a book where it's like sectioned off from every interview, and then all the lessons that were in it could be in there so people can kind of read people's life stories. But I also would like to conduct like panels for like middle school, high school students, and then like teach them podcasting, communication, and like how to overcome failure. That's what I would like to do, and it's basically just giving back and putting something positive out in the community. That's big. But I mean, I want to interview like LeBron James and Mark Cuban. I would love to have those type of people in here to kind of zoom in on some failures that I haven't heard them like share a lot in their interviews and stuff. And so, I would like to do that. I want to be the Latino Joe Rogan of podcasting, but that's big.
No.
But that's what I say.
That's good
because it's long format, it's storytelling, and my conversations are geared are led by the guest. Like I'm really not driving it. I'm listening, and then we're going together. And so, but I enjoy, and those are some of my goals.
They'll get there. They will. You just got to
Thank you,
keep
man.
going for it and dreaming. It might get hard, but that's when you know it's working.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Joe.
Other than thanks for the invite podcast, who else do you want to get on the podcast? Like, you know, like who do you think you can get? Like, man, that's kind of a reach. I don't know if I can get him or not. Like, but I'm gonna try. Like,
Well, yeah,
who do you
well,
wanna get?
I have Mark Cuban in my head because I've
Mhm.
followed him and I like what he's doing, and he just motivates me,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And I seen him recently, and I just like the way he communicated. Even though where he's at, he still seems like a person that's down just to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would like to have him in. Yeah, and then LeBron James, because he has like a leadership school, and he does a lot of things with leadership in his hometown. So I would like to I would love to sit with him
Pick his brain.
yeah, just talk about leadership and failures that he's had or he sees. Yeah, that would be some of the big ones. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I like my mom, my dad.
That'd be cool though. You really get their stories in.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
So if Mark Cuban was sitting right here,
Yeah.
and like you hit record, what would be the first? Like, how would you start that conversation?
I'd be like, how much money you got? No. No, well, he talks about failure in business and losing money. I think I would zoom in on personal failures, like where he can identify like his character flaws that like, dude, I got angry and I shouldn't have got angry and I lost this deal because I was a hothead. Like, I would like to see that because his character wasn't developed in the beginning. And so to me, that's where a lot of us have a lot, like our biggest lessons. It's like we get on our own way. So I would like to zoom in on how he was. Because I know he partied, I know he drank, and for sure, like, you had to be a jerk, you know what I mean? And so, what was that like, and when did he start changing and becoming he seems like a cool guy now, but he has kids, he's married, but so I would zoom in on his character so that people would kind of take their attention off the money and businesses and say, man, you know what, I'm a hothead, and maybe I don't choose my actions right, and he overcame it, or he paid for them. You know what I mean? So it'd be something along those lines, and then I would ask him, for some tickets or something.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah, for a playoff game.
I think that Mark Cuban does. I forgot who was interviewing him, but he said when he goes into a meeting, he said he's really bad at not listening to people, and he just wants to get off of his chest. So he said when he goes into a meeting, he takes a notepad. I don't know if you heard this. He takes a notepad, and at the very top of it, he writes in capital letters, "Listen." So he knows, like, okay, let me listen to them. Let me just not say what I want to say. Like, I need to listen to what they're saying, then I can talk. So I try to, even though I'm not the biggest talker, I can, but I try to take that into consideration when I go somewhere, like, just so I don't start blurting. Just listen to them. So.
No, I
like
love
that
it,
he does
man.
that.
Thank you, guys. Thank y'all for
you.
coming on the Failed Podcast. I enjoyed talking with you guys. I wish y'all much success with your podcast. I'm going to be staying tuned in. For everyone that's listening, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And like I always say, if today's episode was a complete failure, I don't care. I'm going to show up and I'm going to knock another one out. And so thank y'all for tuning in to the Failed Podcast, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Thank you.
Shoot,